Today we continue a summer of prophetic preaching with another episode from the life of the prophet Elijah. This one from 1 Kings chapter 19, a story about a time Elijah sat under a broom tree in the wilderness wondering how to go on. Might give us a good opportunity to think about the whole prophetic profession. If I asked you to think about the best day of your professional life, you could probably do it, couldn't you? It would be one of those days when something wonderful and unexpected happened. When you won the unwinnable court case, when you closed the unclosable deal, when you got promoted to that big corner office in the sky, or your new album went to number one. Maybe you've never had a day just like that, but you have had some good days, haven't you? When everything just seemed to come together, when things worked the way they were supposed to, when you finally got the recognition you deserved. And if so, you know that for every day like that, there are 1,000 of the other kind. The best day of Elijah's professional life was the great showdown on the top of Mount Carmel. You've probably heard about it. It began when Ahab, the king of Israel, married a beautiful Sidonian princess named Jezebel, who was a Baal worshiper. She believed that Baal was the god of the good life. He was the one who caused the rain to fall and the crops to grow and bring every good thing into existence. And as sometimes happens in these marriages of mixed religion, her husband began to worship her god instead of the other way around. King Ahab built a temple for Baal in Samaria and erected an altar in it. He also set up an Asherah, a sacred pole, which was a none too subtle fertility symbol, and invited everyone to come to Samaria and worship Baal. The writer of 1 Kings says bluntly, Ahab did more to provoke the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, than had all the kings of Israel who went before him. And so God sent Elijah to have a word with King Ahab. Ahab saw him coming. And while Elijah was still at a distance, he said, "What do you want with me, you troubler of Israel?" "Look," said Elijah, "you're the one causing trouble. You think Baal brings the rain? You think Baal is the one who waters the earth? I'll show you. It's not going to rain again in Israel until I say so." And so for 3.5 years, there was no rain. None, not even a heavy dew. Every green thing in the land turned brown. Whole grain fields dried up and blew away. There were cracks in the ground so deep and wide you could shove a broom handle down and rattle it back and forth. And that was when God decided that his people had suffered enough. He sent Elijah back to Ahab. And Ahab said, "Here you come again. And what kind of trouble are you bringing this time?" Elijah said, "As I told you, you are the one troubling Israel, leading them away from the one true God. We wouldn't even be having this drought if you hadn't forsaken the commandments of Yahweh. But let's settle things once and for all. Let's find out who the real God is. Meet me tomorrow morning on the top of Mount Carmel and bring with you the 450 prophets of Baal and all the people of Israel." Now, you may think it odd that a skinny, dried-up old prophet wearing a camel hair tunic could boss the king of Israel around. But you need to remember it was Elijah who had called for this drought, who had said that it wouldn't rain again until he said so. For 3.5 years, no rain had fallen. Ahab had to acknowledge his power, and power like that you have to pay attention to, especially if you are the king of Israel. It's just good politics. And so the next morning, there was Elijah, there was Ahab, There were the 450 prophets of Baal, and all the people of Israel gathered on top of Mount Carmel. And as soon as the sun came up over the hills to the east, Elijah began to speak. "Look," he said, "how long will you go on limping about with two different opinions, like people who are trying to walk down both sides of the street at the same time? If Baal is God, worship him. But if Yahweh is God, then worship him." And he waited for a response. But none came. No one said a word. "Fine then," Elijah said. "I am the only prophet of the Lord left in Israel, and here are these 450 prophets of Baal. Give each of us a bull, and let us offer a sacrifice. Let us call upon our gods to send down fire from heaven, and the God who answers by fire will be the true God of Israel." Agreed? Oh, the people thought it was a wonderful idea. A contest. Yes, let's do it. And Elijah offered to let the prophets of Baal go first. They did. They stacked up some stones and made a crude altar. They gathered some wood to put on top of it, some dry wood, and after 3.5 years without any rain, it was very dry. They slaughtered their bull and put it on top of the wood, and after 3.5 years, even the bull was dry, little better than beef jerky. And then they began to dance around this altar, calling out to their God, doing this strange limping dance designed to get Baal's attention. Baal, the one who was called the storm god, often pictured riding around on a cloud with a thunderbolt in one hand and a lightning bolt in the other. If anybody could pull off a stunt like this, Baal could do it, right? One placed lightning bolt would certainly do the trick. The 450 prophets of Baal did that dance around the altar, dropping to one knee and then the other and then the other and then the other, calling out the name of their God from 9 o'clock in the morning until noon for 3 hours with no result. No smoke, no fire, nothing. Until Elijah began taunting them and saying, "I think I see what the problem is here, boys. You're just not calling out loudly enough. Maybe your God is meditating. Maybe he's gone to the bathroom. Maybe he's taking a trip. Maybe he's taking a nap. And what you need to do is wake him up. Lift your voices. Raise the dead. If he is a God, he will hear you. And he is a God, isn't he?" Which made the prophets of Baal furious, and they leaped back into their dance with renewed vigor, limping around the altar even faster, slashing themselves with lances and spears, making the blood flow freely. Surely that kind of fervent prayer would have its effect.